My name is Paul Shelley, and you're watching Galactic Historian, a show where I take a look at the lore and history of sci-fi universes. Today we're going to be doing something special, as the lore for the Redeemer has yet to be released, but I agreed to create some possible lore for the ship as part of a community challenge. So note that everything that is mentioned here is fanon, and not considered official lore. The Aegis Redeemer is the product of the Second Tevarin War. During that war, the Tevarin Prowler was the stuff of nightmares for UEE capital ship crews, as the ship had a reputation for being able to insert into ships without being seen and deliver specialized elite warriors known as Noule, who could eliminate entire capital ships without alerting anyone. In the aftermath of the war, the Messer government saw the value in their own Prowler, a ship equipped to deliver elite troops quietly while also packing a punch. Like usual, they turned to Aegis Dynamics to create this human Prowler concept. The design team thoroughly studied observations made by UEE crews of the Prowler in combat. They also pored over data collected by RSI's experimental development team, who had run captured Prowlers through rigorous experiments during the First and Second Tevarin Wars. Finally, they interviewed UEE Marine pilots and boarders to see what they wanted in a combat support craft. Taking this information, the team created their human Prowler concept design in 2620, dubbed the Aegis Redeemer. This ship was a hybrid of Tevarin engineering designs and human innovation. The Redeemers served with distinction for almost 100 years, though mostly in secret, until 2751, when Ulysses Messer ordered a review of planetary engagements, which would lead to the formation of UEE Starlift Command. One of the first realizations of this study was that the Redeemer was not fit for the new mandate of the UEE Starlift Command. It lacked the firepower necessary to take down new threats of the larger, tougher Vanduul, which Marines were increasingly coming into conflict with. As a result of this study, Aegis Dynamics was tasked to update their design for new specifications, making the ship tougher, bigger, and meaner. By 2755, it became known as Project Horseman, and was headquartered on the Aegis shipyards of Locke, Idris 4. The team further drew from the Prowler, and from a fringe engineer named Dr. Paul DeLessy, who had developed a controversial new engine design known as the Vector Lock. This technology allowed for less power with equal thrust, allowing for the increased weapons to fire at a sustained rate similar to the original Redeemer. The result is an entirely new ship built from the hull of the aging Redeemer, known as the Mark II. However, the research and development of such a radical design, combined with the failing economy and difficult work conditions for the design team, with Dr. DeLessy being arrested 4 times for his anti-Messer stance, caused many delays. At one point, a key component of the Vector Lock engines was destroyed as it got caught in the crossfire of Linton Messer's coup to oust his father in 2781, putting the project back 3 years. As such, the first prototype of the Mark II wouldn't be ready until 2785, 30 years after the project had begun. By this time, the project had fallen out of favor with the new Imperator, and the team's funding was drying up. Then, all hell broke loose. By the late spring of 2792, the anti-Messer revolution had begun. Within months, the Messer government had collapsed, and a new UEE replaced it. However, there remained holdouts, pockets of resistance against this new rule, which would take years to clean up. Unfortunately, for Project Horseman, one of those pockets was Locke. Locke's rulers refused to recognize the UEE and stubbornly held out against the change. However, the people of Locke were fed up with the corruption and cruelty of the Messer regime, and rose up shortly after. They were armed mostly with Castek Arms weapons and armor, sold to them by smugglers working for the new UEE. The designers of the Mark II found themselves stuck between a rock and a hard place. Their company was under incredible scrutiny after the fall of the Messers, having been so closely tied to them in the past. Many in the new government wanted to dismantle Aegis entirely, so as a result, there wasn't much the designers' parent company could do for them politically. To add to their troubles, their life's work was sitting in a pro-Messer hangar on a planet in full revolt. A precarious situation that could have easily led to the destruction of the Mark II in the crossfire. 2 days after the first rebel clash with local Messer forces, the team met in the hangar to decide what to do. While the option to just walk away was floated, none of the engineers and designers wanted to leave their work to likely be destroyed. Other options were floated, like trying to break out with the prototype and surrender to the new UEE, to hide the ship in a deep bunker and come back later, or surrender to the rebels who might be able to protect their work. Eventually, Dr. DeLacy made the final call. They would surrender to the rebels. After securing help of a few disenfranchised naval and marine personnel on the base, they loaded up their ship on a heavy transport and drove it towards the rebel lines under a white flag. The trip was dangerous, and the team survived an artillery strike, a corrupt town mayor, a precarious trip over a nearly destroyed bridge, and a tense standoff with rebels before successfully securing the safety of the Mark II. When Locke finally overthrew its dictator, the harrowing story of the team of the Horsemen and their ship started to spread all over the Empire. It even got its own film adaptation, Locke's Redemption. However, due to the fragile relationship between the UEE and Aegis, the Horseman project was cancelled, and the ship sat in the Locke shipyards in storage for over a century. With the now very poorly aging Mark Is far past their service, the UEE Navy desperately needed a replacement. However, due to the incredible popularity of the story of the Mark II, it was political suicide to just replace the ship with a newer Anvil or RSI gunship. So, in 2940, the UEE Navy ordered a new round of tests for the Redeemer Mark II, which showed promising results. Its improved flight time due to the experimental engines, coupled with its increased firepower, now 2 size 5 turrets, the ship proved to be more gunship than dropship, exactly what the UE needed to support the new Valkyrie and Hercules during their initial drops, while retaining its ability to insert special operations forces. The UE Navy ordered 50 Mark II Redeemers to replace its aging predecessors, but this order would be delayed due to an accident that nearly destroyed the prototype in 2942, when the vector lock engine wasn't maintained properly and seized up, preventing the ship from being able to maneuver properly. Thankfully, the pilot, Saul Shelley, was able to recognize the issue and correct it in time, causing damage to the engines but saving the hull. Things became further delayed as bureaucratic error prevented enough funds to be directed towards the project to even pay for the fuel and weapons replenishments needed for them to test. This was made worse when senators from Earth and Terra began to question if the project was even worth it. Both senators would later be revealed to have been on the payroll of Aegis rivals, RSI, and Anvil Aerospace, who had vested interest in smearing the ship and replacing it with one of their own designs. The reveal of this caused a scandal, which added fuel to the fire of the Polo Initiative, a Senate bill that was set to reduce military spending by 10%, further endangering the project. Finally, after the Battle of Vega, Project Horseman would be fast-tracked, with the first 10 ships rolling off the Idris shipyards in 2946, almost 200 years after it first got the green light. As part of the new and improved Aegis dynamics, the ship was also offered to civilian market at the same time, sold as a brutal and efficient gunship to help remote militias deal with hostile privateers and raiders, while being flexible enough to allow them to insert troops right into a hot zone. And that was my fan canon for the Redeemer. It fixes most of my issues with the ship, and gives it a flair in its story while respecting the work of the fan creators of the ship in the first place. This was originally made for my Patreons, and if you want more exclusive videos like this before they go public, think about joining there for as low as $5 per month. If you really enjoyed what you watched, give this video a like, leave a comment below with your thoughts, and hit the subscribe button for future content. Until next time, remember, ex Historia ad Astra.